session this morning. It started at 10 o'clock and they're in Caucus. So we expect representatives will join us throughout the morning as we're able to break away from the floor to participate and hear your presentations. But I'd like to start with introductions of those folks who have agreed to serve in the panel this morning, starting with my far left.
Reach the microphone. My name is Sarah Triplett, and I am the Director of Public Policy for Arts of Michigan.
My name is Nikki Brown, and I am a lobbyist for the Michigan Municipal League.
My name is Erin Schlar. I'm a Legislative Director for the Michigan Community College Association.
Mike Lapis, I'm the Government Relations Manager for University of Michigan.
I'm Brandy Johnson. I'm the Executive Director of the Michigan College Access Network.
I'm Michael Fay. I'm one of your instructors as well.
In the back of the room by the door is one of our colleagues, Jay McDowell from the Howell School District and an adjunct lecturer at the University of Michigan as well. My name is David Lossing, one of the faculty members and the Director of Government Relations at the University of Michigan Flint. And then our colleague, Professor Jeff Kupperman, who's going to kick off the hearing and the presentations.
Thank you, David. As many of you already know, the Michigan Caucus, Michigan Student Caucus represents students throughout Michigan to the Michigan State Legislature. It has been in existence in one form or another since 2001, and thousands of students across Michigan have participated in the MSC. The goal of the MSC is the construction of a political platform that represents the interests of students of all ages across the state of Michigan. And at this point, Representative Rogers is here, so I'll let him give the formal introduction to the hearing today, if that pleases Representative Rogers. Thank you.
So you probably did the same speech as last year?
Yes.
I truly appreciate that. I'm Representative Bill Rogers. I happen to sit on appropriations, and this is our other office. I just wanted to thank everyone for their participation again this year. Unfortunately, we have a little bit of a busy day. We will be going into caucus very shortly, so I will have to depart for that meeting. But I applaud all of you for your participation in the program. And actually, I always look forward to listening to some of the presentations, whether I agree with them or not. That's a different ballgame. You know, I appreciate all the time and effort, and I'm hoping this panel up here quizzes you very well. But with that, I'm going to turn this over, so I'm not late for caucus. But welcome again to the state capitol, to our approach room, and good luck and enjoy today. Thank you.
One more person I need to introduce, who is right now a little bit hard to see because we haven't had our projectors set up. Rainey Holden, one of the other faculty advisors, is joining us via Skype, and he's right here. It's very small. Good morning, everyone.
Hi, Rainey.
if you want to be seen by Rainey, use this little camera on the desk here. We will be presenting, the caucus will be presenting its platform in 6 different areas. Each area has a set of topic coordinators. The topic coordinators will introduce the topics and then introduce each of the proposals in the platform. We also want to give a huge thank you to a number of organizations that have worked with us this semester. They include the Ginsberg Center for Community Service and Learning, Give 365 Volunteer Program, Give Salanti Senior and Community Center, the Bright Futures Program, Logan Elementary School, Detroit Literacy Mentors, the Friendship Circle of West Bloomfield, Mentor to Youth, and many more organizations that have worked with MSC members to allow them to do their service, allow them to do service activities throughout the semester. And with that, I will turn over the floor to the Justice and Equity Topic Coordinators, Matt Golub, William Krennick, and Adam Feldman.
Thank you for having us today. I'm Matt Golub. I'm William Krennick.
Adam Feldman.
And we were the topic coordinators for Justice and Equity. A lot of what we talked about this semester was policies that can better ensure that all groups and individuals in Michigan are treated fairly by the government, by law enforcement, by employers, and by each other. Some of the topics that we talked about were medical marijuana, lowering the drinking age, raising cigarette taxes throughout the state. For our town hall, we had Margaret Madigan and Katie Parker, and we talked about various inequalities in terms of education and best policy solutions to go about solving that. We focused not only on inside the classroom, but also outside the classroom, and trying to create a better learning environment for the students who potentially don't have a role model in their life to emphasize how important education is. For our first proposal, we'll have Jacob Nimroff doing sexual assault policies on university campuses.
Good morning. So I decided to work on the proposal titled Sexual Assault Policies on University Campuses due to the beginning of the year, a recent article that was published by the Washington Watchdogs, which implicated one of our own football players at the University of Michigan on issues of sexual assault. So whether this is true or not true, because it very well might not be true, and it very well might be true, but one issue that is definitely apparent and certain through this issue is that we need to take the issue of sexual assault policies out of a biased party. So this school, while they want to help the victim, they also helping or prosecuting the defendant would be like walking to the line of fire. They have too much incentive not to help this football player. This football player is somebody who generates revenue for the team. He establishes himself, and the university is symbolic and is represented by the block M, which is the exact football logo. So what I wanted to do through my proposal was take this out of as unbiased of a biased party's hands and put it into an unbiased third party's hands. So while the facts of sexual assault, this might not be true. There are definitely many facts that are true, and nationally, 17.6% of women and 3% of men are sexually assaulted at some point in their lifetime. 29.4% of these women and 16.6% of men were 18 through 24 at their first attack. So for college students and university policy, this issue is definitely prevalent. In Michigan specifically, 40% of women experience sexual violence since they were 16. And then in colleges in general, again, a college woman's risk of sexual assault is 1 in 4. And the problem here is that 70% of victims knew their attackers. This blurs the understanding of both consent and assault, and then lessens the likelihood of being reported. In fact, rape and sexual assault is the crime least reported to law enforcement. And the problem here, however, is that schools can appoint an investigator, but they cannot issue subpoenas or obtain witnesses to prosecute them. So I propose that the Michigan Department of Education implements a statewide conduct code for disciplining those who commit acts of sexual assault. They should also use a preponderance of evidence standard to determine whether a student is guilty or not. What this means that if it's more than likely that an act of sexual assault has occurred, not if he's guilty, but more than likely, then penalty should ensue. Additionally, the school should establish a plan for how schools should respond. So while they shouldn't, the first implementing a statewide conduct code, that's different than how should they respond. Because while they might not be guilty, the school needs to do something or needs to have an organization in place that will respond immediately, whether that will help the student obtain these witnesses, provide them a network of legal support, medical support, and other support services, rather than the school doing it themselves. And then I spoke to SAPAC, which is the Sexual Assault Prevention Awareness Center at our own university, and they were telling me that this issue is also prevalent among college students due to the issue of alcohol, which lowers inhibitions and I guess it changes that issue of consent. And then their problem is while they try to help and they try to better people who have been accused of sexual assault or victims of sexual assault, they are not law enforcement and they aren't campus security. But the thing is, we can provide an organization like SAPAC who with this ability to obtain subpoenas and give them more power and give them more responsibilities. And then Margaret Madigan and Kathleen Dora Parker, as they previously mentioned, who were at our Justice and Equity Town Hall meeting, they mentioned the Indiana University Equity Project, which is being established at Indiana, which is trying to help create consistent conduct code across the state. Because in one case, a student can be suspended for cheating, and in another case, a student nothing could happen. So they're trying to mitigate these differences among crimes and just have some consistency across the state. So I think that our state needs to implement something similar to this with regard to sexual assault, as this crime is the least reported crime, and we need to change that. Thank you.
Thank you, Jacob. Are there any questions from the panel?
Thank you for your presentation. You mentioned the Michigan Department of Education as the agency to enforce this mechanism. So what jurisdiction would the Michigan Department of Education have over universities? Or what role would they play?
So I chose the Michigan Department of Education, being that this is a school matter, and I figured that while we can't implement policies in the state across schools, and it's not just universities, I'm talking about colleges, high schools, elementary schools, sexual assault happens across the state. So I figured the Michigan Department of Education should be somewhere responsible in the process in implementing this across, the schools.
Thank you, Jacob. This is an interesting proposal, and there's no doubt that sexual assault is greatly important. Why would we want to set up a separate statewide system for students when we have an existing statewide criminal justice system?
The problem with the students is that there's equity issues that arise among students. While there is a criminal justice system, I'm not saying that we should, replace the criminal justice system that's existing. I'm just saying we need to have, an organization in place that'll help lead to the right decision making through that law enforcement or through the criminal justice system. So the problem that's happening here is that 10 to 15% of students, even those committed guilty, were not expelled from school. So while they are being prosecuted criminally, they're still not expelled from school. So these students are walking around, these victims are seeing them, and they're constantly being victimized. So while the criminal justice system is doing all that they can to, mitigate that one thing by prosecuting that one instance, who's to say that it's not going to happen again? Who's to say that this long-standing relationship of being victimized and constantly being treated wrongly or just emotionally, not even physically, just emotional toll that's taken on these victims is stark, and we need to change that. And the fact of the matter is 10 to 15% are not, even those guilty and even those accused and even though everything are not being expelled. So there's definitely this disconnect between the criminal justice system and the Department of Education. I think we need to bridge that barrier and create a more feasible and more flawless solution. Any other questions?
You have a question, Mike?
So I guess to use the example on your campus, what interest would the University of Michigan Police Department have in not fully investigating and prosecuting such an allegation?
Right. So the problem in the instance that I was talking about, they were definitely involved in some sort, but the problem is now the Ann Arbor police couldn't get involved because now there's university police, and university police were saying it's going to be Ann Arbor police, and there's no. While they say that there's conversation going on between the two, it doesn't appear the case that they're doing the exact same thing or they're not working together. So I'm saying we need an organization, whether it's someone on top of them, someone in there that fusing the two organizations, but they are simply not working together to prosecute student cases particularly. And I'm not talking about we need to change the criminal justice system as it pertains to sexual assault crimes across the state. I'm talking about specifically to students and campuses because of that issue where, is it going to be campus security taking charge, or is it going to be the state security taking charge?
Well, thank you, Jacob.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you.
Next up for the proposals is equity for the LGBT community, proposed by John McPherson and Jadar Lundar.
The floor is yours. Just make sure you hit the red button in front of the mic.
Well, hi everybody. Thank you for coming and taking the time to listen to us. My name is Jagar Majmundar, and this is John McPherson, and we're here to talk to you today about equality for the LGBT community. So, as you probably know, Proposal 04-2 was a constitutional amendment passed by Michigan voters that excludes same-sex couples from obtaining legal marriage licenses. So, this prohibits them from obtaining any of the tax credits that a typical marriage would usually bring you, and also there's a ban on unmarried couples adopting children right now. So, right, sorry about that. And but the tide is changing in the country now. There are 16 states that have legally allowed marriage, and also the District of Columbia. So as we were doing research, we saw that the Williams Institute of UCLA has found that in New Jersey, there has been a $248 million positive economic benefit, also bringing 800 new jobs and $19 million in government revenues. Alongside that, there's another study done by the American Journal of Public Health, and they saw that states that banned same-sex marriage had tremendous spike in mental disorders. And now I'll hand it off to John to talk.
Yeah, so in 2004 when the amendment was first passed, it passed with a 59% voters approved it. But the social attitude and climate in Michigan has dramatically changed over the last 10 years. Last year, a Michigan State University study found that 56% of Michigan voters approved same-sex marriage, and then a study done recently this year by the Glengarriff Group found that 57% of voters now approve same-sex marriage. Additionally, currently under the Elliott-Larsen Act, Civil Rights Act, sexual orientation and gender identity are not covered for work discrimination, and Royal Oak became the 30th municipality in November to pass the Human Rights Ordinance, which adds this clause to their discrimination legislation. So it's clear that more and more people in municipalities are changing their opinions. Additionally, in June, the Defense of Marriage Act was, the Supreme Court ruled on the Defense of Marriage Act, which ruled that, on certain tenets of it, that it was illegal to deny same-sex couples the same rights as married couples if gay marriage was legal in that state. So they said that states have the constitutional right to define marriage, but if a state declares same-sex marriage legal, they are entitled to the same benefits as other married couples. And in February, a state judge in the Detroit area is going to rule on a case about joint adoption, and it was bundled in with the legality of same-sex marriage. And he's going to decide on the constitutional legality of that in the state of Michigan. But it's our opinion that we should take the decision out of the hands of the court and put it back in the hands of the people. And we should hold another referendum and to try and see if the voters of Michigan approve of legalizing same-sex marriage, and additionally amend the Elliott-Larsen Act to protect sexual orientation and gender identity. Thanks for answering.
Great, thank you. Any questions from the panel?
Two questions. One, just purely out of you use kind of this in your resolution. So just kind of a general question. So it says, if 14 states currently have legalized gay marriage, and you stated that in New Jersey there's a $248 million increased economic impact over 3 years. Does that economic impact lessen if, say, all 50 states legalize gay marriage?
Sorry, can you repeat that one more time? This is the last part.
Sure. Does the economic impact lessen if, say, all 50 or 40 states legalize gay marriage? Does it kind of water that down a little bit?
Yeah, it definitely does. Maryland saw the highest economic impact just because they were the first state to legalize same-sex marriage. So they saw a huge spike, but it's definitely going to lessen for every state from here on out.
I guess my second is less of a question, more I guess a recommendation. I guess there was a lot of numbers, full numbers, and how people felt in here. I guess the question / recommendation is, why wouldn't you guys focus more on kind of just the quality of the issue?
Well, we were trying to take a numbers-based approach to show that this is an issue that has changed over the course of the last decade, that people do believe more in the equality of, everyone, giving everyone the same rights regardless of, their sexual orientation and gender. We're trying to show you that in 2004 it passed with 59% approval, against, and now it's at 57, and it's been increasing, and it's almost at 59, which is what it passed in 2004.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Historically, courts have sometimes been ahead of the public in terms of making these sorts of decisions, whether we're looking at interracial marriage or school integration, and we're seeing the courts head down that path right now with same-sex rights, where the majority in parts of the country is not there. The courts are ahead of them based on the legal. Why would we want to take this determination out of the hands of the courts and put it back before the voters who are at best unpredictable?
Previously this judge, he pushed back the date to rule on this to February because he wanted to hear the ruling of the Defense of Marriage Act by the Supreme Court, because he wanted to see, where they would stand, and so we just wanted to, and like our numbers, showed before from the polls, we wanted to try and, not put all the eggs in one basket, so to speak, where if he ruled that it was unconstitutional, let the people also have a choice to voice their opinion.
Yeah, I think the numbers really speak to what we're trying to do. Seeing how 57% of people in Michigan, according to these polls, have favorable opinions to gay marriage, I think that if we held a referendum or something to see if this is actually true, I think that would really have an effect.
Any other questions from the panel? And just a comment for myself, it's one of the other roles I have outside the university is the mayor of the city of Linden, and we adopted a non-discrimination ordinance back in September this year, so we were the 27th city to do that, because at the end of the day, it's about a path to justice if there's discrimination until such time that the state modifies Elliott Larson. I think it's going to be up to local units of government to do that for their residents. So applaud you gentlemen on your proposal, and good job today.
Thank you for your time.
So we'd like to invite up next are the topic coordinators for the arts and culture.
Hi.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having us. We're the topic coordinators for arts and culture. My name is Josh Shandell.
I'm Matthew Simon.
Dylan Levy.
Lee Feldman.
So the arts and culture platform, we were tasked with creating proposals to better foster engagement with arts and cultural activities of all kinds in Michigan by residents across the state of all ages. And so for our town hall, we brought in Deborah Pollack, who is the CEO of Art Train USA and the executive director of the Arts Alliance. And Art Train USA is an independent nonprofit arts organization. And the Arts Alliance advocates for and supports the creative sector in Washtenaw County. So we had a wide range of proposals ranging from advertising to arts education to arts funding. Ultimately, we selected some great proposals, the first of which was fostering the arts in school and in extracurricular activities by Howard Sobel. And the other one was combating childhood illiteracy by Micah Sapitsky. So for our first proposal, we'd like to call Howard Sobel.
And before Howard gets started, I just want to introduce to you everybody Ms. Sarah Anthony, who has joined us to my immediate right. She works with Brandy at the Michigan College Access Network as the Director of Finance, and also serves as a County Commissioner for Ingham County. Welcome.
morning. Design. So the title of my proposal is Fostering the Arts in and out of school and in extracurricular activities. So one thing I really want to emphasize is that the arts can bring together an entire community through different projects that actually make a difference in society. So what's really important is that it's not about liking art. It's about providing opportunities and the value that this can bring to young people. Some of these merits are it provides a safe place and it gives students a sense of belonging and also provides economic opportunities. The way it provides economic opportunities is that it teaches students accountability, gives them habits that art develops that makes them more attractive for a job, which I'll illustrate in just a few moments. It also makes them a good candidate for employment because they'll be accountable and show up and perform and give back to society at the same time. So also extracurricular activities. So participation in extracurricular activities boosts performance academically in a number of ways because it provides better attitudes towards school and higher educational aspirations. So about the economic opportunities and the way that art actually is actually beneficial is this is epitomized in Bentonville, Arkansas through the opening of the Crystal Bridges Museum of American Art. So basically this museum opened up and it wasn't in like the nicest demographic area, but there was a lot of people that wanted to go and it was free admission and there was an overwhelming majority of people that wanted to go to the point where they actually had a lottery of people who were allowed to go. And the people that were selected to visit the museum demonstrated stronger critical thinking skills, displayed higher levels of social tolerance, exhibited greater historical empathy, and developed a taste for art museums and cultural institutions. So these are some of the benefits that art can provide. So going more into my proposal and the changes that I wish to make. So I wish that there is more after-school programs and school programs and in-school programs through partnerships between schools and local artists. Also, the way that I think this can be done is that because artists are individuals just like everyone else who are can't live off of nothing, by giving them the partnerships, this will be done through incentives. So things such as tax credits or the way that this can be done is if tax credits are offered, this paves the way for a self-sustainable solution. So to not limit only artists to engage with students in and out of school, but also utilize existing organizations that already engage in these kind of activities. So basically, I don't want nonprofits to alter the focus of their programs, but there are already programs that engage in partnerships with different schools and help make a difference. And the only cost for the after-school activities that I'm suggesting would be a school supervisor, which wouldn't be very costly considering the benefits. And also, because this is so small, it could be either reimbursed through the state or covered by the school. So finally, the last part of my proposal that I included as operative clause was to have more elective periods, especially art electives, such as collage making, cooking, pottery, etc., once or twice a week, because there are a lot of schools that don't have this, and I see that there are many merits to this that can be incorporated. So, if you have any questions.
Great, thanks, Howard. Any questions from the panel? Good job.
So first off, you're absolutely right. I mean, the arts in the schools is absolutely critical for our students. But tax credits is, a sticky subject. You have to figure out where that money is going to come from. Have you ever thought about partnering with the local communities? I mean, I know the local communities have a strong network, of business owners, of the local artists in the area, and trying to fuse the gap between the schools and the local communities in that fashion, instead of going the tax credit route.
That's an excellent question. The tax credits was just a suggestion. I know it's a sticky subject, I think there are better ways, and that's a great point that you bring up. So the issue is that there are, I actually spent a couple hours on the phone with a man by the name of Peter Brunn, who ran an organization called Art on Purpose in Baltimore, Maryland, which did one of these kind of programs. And the problem with that is that the issue becomes the funding issue is just because it's so expensive to take all this on, and also because the artists are partnering, they're not really making a lot of money, and they need to work, and it's not really fair for the artists to be working at such a small salary because they're trying to make a living as well. So that's an excellent point, and I would love to see that, but I really think the big problem, and I talked to him and he agreed, was awareness. That a lot of people just don't know enough about these organizations and enough about like, you know, there's so many things that schools have to take on, and it's just one more thing that makes it so much harder to address and actually implement.
Speaking of that, I wondered whether you may need any to quantify any, estimate any of the costs of these proposals.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, well, as I suggested, through the extracurricular activities, I mean, the cost is a school supervisor because that's just necessary to have. But I mean, that's why like, obviously I wanted to have some sort of incentive for the artists, because I'll give you an example. So in Madison, Wisconsin, there was a school called Hawthorne Elementary School. So they partnered with like mosaic artists to create like kiosks for the entryway. They also like partnered with the quilter, and so in the aspect of the school-wide, like I know that the state, and the biggest issue is funding. You know, there's so many things that are deserving of funding, which is why I wanted to create a proposal that wasn't like that much, that didn't, you know, require that much funding. And so that's why I was thinking more of an incentive through the tax credits, which I know might not be the most applicable thing, and I think that there are better ways to do it. But so like the cost would be that, well, to further address your question, the cost would be the extracurricular, the supervisor, as well as like, I mean, I think the biggest thing is awareness, because I think if we have awareness, then the funding will come, and that will cover all of the costs. So because there are a lot of people that, like when Art on Purpose first came out in Baltimore, there were people jumping at the idea and giving funding. But as it kept wearing on it, you know, people are always looking for the next new thing. And I think that's what happened. It got exhausted, and so like the funding stopped coming. But if we just have awareness and people can see what a positive impact it has, then we can raise funding and it won't cost anyone anything.
If I could follow up,
Yeah.
you know, sometimes when you go to foundations or to the state and you're seeking funding, they really want a greater level of detail about what you're looking for. So it might be interesting to try and estimate, you know, how much that supervisor makes in the time that they're there, across how many schools across the state you want to do, and then you can really bring those numbers to somebody to say, you know, we need $1 million, $5 million, whatever the case may be, and you can play around with them a little to say, you know, we're going to try to go to all schools, so that's too expensive, so we're going to focus on kindergarten through third grade. It just gives me some opportunity to play around a little.
That's an absolutely really good point, but just to follow up on that, it's just kind of difficult just because there's such a wide array, like there's so many different extracurricular activities, so it's not fair to put like a one number, like, you know, $20 an hour. It's just not a fair estimate. I think that's something that's more on a school basis and something that like the school could work out. And like I know that at the middle school and high school that I went to, like there were these opportunities provided, and it was all taken through the school. And I think that if a lot of this was, you know, if the artists were like, you know, all these programs were already funded, I think I can see very little reason why schools wouldn't provide like, you know, a couple hours like per week of providing a salary. So.
Thank you. Any further questions? Sarah?
Yes, thank you so much for coming today, and I applaud your proposal. I just had a question for you. You know, considering, you know, that with budgets being tight across the state, that sometimes, unfortunately, you know, arts educators are considered, you know, non-essential. And considering, you know, what happened in the Lansing School District here, which is pretty close to home, that arts educators have been eliminated from kindergarten classrooms, and they're working on a new proposal to try and get those educators back in the classroom, but at this time, that is still in process. So have you thought about the role that arts educators play in this, in your proposal?
Absolutely. So this was something that I also, when I went on the phone, I was like asking, because not every artist, well, let me know if this addresses it, and if not, I would love to finish it again. But so basically, like, not everyone can just teach. You need to have, like, you have to like get implemented by like the state. You have to like, there's like a certain like a program you have to go through. So I think that like, that, I think that's part of the issue as well. But I think I might wait till you. Can you just rephrase it for a second?
Sure. Just wanted to know the role that arts educators, credentialed arts educators, would play in this process. Unfortunately, sometimes, you know, with budget funding, that they are the first to be cut, and so wanted to make sure that they're playing a role in your proposal.
Yeah, I guess the way the proposal's written right now is that it's more like outside organizations, but I definitely wouldn't be like opposed of, you know, I think that is a good idea, but again, because the budget is so tight, it's just not always practical, because I think a lot of the reason is, if we could get, if we raised awareness, and these artists, the school teachers, had some sort of objective, because the reason is that some of these art on purpose organizations that come in already have planned things that are different than teaching someone how to paint. It's more actually making a difference for the school and for society. So I think that's why it kind of is a hard issue to touch on.
Sure. No, and I appreciate your answer. And no, I just as a suggestion here for your proposal, maybe an idea that to have those nonprofit organizations work with those credentialed art teachers to help them integrate even better, some of those programs into the curriculum. Which is just something that
That's a great point. Thank you.
Thank you. Sure. I guess you talked a lot about art as kind of an extracurricular activity relative to after school. You did talk about it in school. I do want to just kind of remind that under the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, federal level, the arts is a core subject. And I think if Representative Rogers was here, he probably would say that there is money for the arts in the current K-12 budget. And it's really all about priorities, and it's working with the different administrators throughout the state to understand how they can implement arts education into their district. One of the suggestions that I would encourage you to take a look at next time or whatever is, there are a lot of great school districts that are doing complete arts education for all of their students. Maybe consider looking at creating models of education that could be held within the Department of Education, that other schools who don't have or don't think that they have the resources for arts education could implement. And I guess my last point too, just to be in terms of after-school programming, I will say that not every kid has the ability or access to participate in after-school programming. So
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. That's why a lot what I referenced a little bit earlier was with Hawthorne Elementary School. They actually did it during school as well. And to address your other point, I think that you're absolutely right. But I just wanted to kind of create a proposal that didn't, because funding is such an issue. I really just didn't want to put any more burden on the state, or Department of Education. So, but yeah, that's definitely a good one. Thank you.
Thank you, Howard. Good job.
Thanks, Howard. Our next proposal is Combating Childhood Illiteracy by Mike Sapitsky.
Thanks for your time, everyone. I'm Mike Sapitsky. Basically, when I was doing research on what proposal I wanted to put forth, I came across a staggering statistic that 1 in 3 adults in the state of Michigan is reading below a 6th grade level, and that prompted me to think of ways that things that we should do to change that, because that's definitely something that we need to correct. And I was faced with the decision of whether I should do something that combats the illiteracy of adults, currently the 1 in 3 that are reading at the 6th grade level, and then I decided that I think a more long-term proposal that would have long-term benefits would be something that deals with the children that are going to grow up to be these adults. So what I decided was a proposal that is two-pronged. On one side, it would increase the education that children are receiving, and then on the other would increase the testing standards for an assessment, because apparently there's flaws in the assessment methods if people are able to graduate without having reading levels higher than a 6th grade level. So my proposal is to increase volume of reading for students, and the other is to adopt a standard of testing that's more individualized and more focused to each school than the Common Core, which is currently used. And basically, right now there's only around $12 million of funding for, I think it was for English education for those with limited English proficiency, and I think that needs to be increased, because there's a lot more focus on educating for people that have, I guess, more literacy, and there needs to be more of a focus on the granular, the small level, and yeah, that's about it.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Any questions from the committee? Yes, Brandy.
So you mentioned the adult literacy rate, and that includes very old adults that didn't go to K-12, let's say within the last 40 or 50 years. Do you have any data to indicate that recent high school graduates don't meet these basic literacy standards? And then my second part of the question is, you mentioned the ineffectiveness of Common Core. I think a lot of us would argue that Common Core really has not even been implemented yet, nor has it been assessed. So sort of what's your standard for ineffectiveness of something that hasn't really been implemented yet?
So most of my research came from the Detroit Regional Workforce Fund. They put out a document, I think it was 2012, that really it went through, I'm not sure about the dates, but or the ages of people that were tested. That's where I got my information from, and I assumed that was current information. And I mean, one of the other data points that I found staggering is that half of the adults that were tested, and I'm not sure what the age range was that they all did have high school diplomas. So I did take into consideration that some of these adults that were tested were not even high school graduates, but I wanted to focus mainly on the people who have high school diplomas, and I think that the data that I got it from was using, I mean, current. I'm not sure on the ages, but I really wouldn't assume that they'd be going to 70, 80-year-olds. And then for your second point of the Common Core, I looked at other states that have implemented standards that are more rigorous than the Common Core, and I found the data is showing that there's are definite benefits to implementing something that's more rigorous than the Common Core.
Yeah, Mike. Sir, how would you take it?
Thank you, and welcome everyone to Ingham County. Had a quick question for you. In some of your research, were you able to disaggregate some of the data by race and income in regards to literacy rates? And kind of as a follow-up, would you be in favor of targeted strategies to address some of the gaps that may be in that data set regarding racial and economic factors?
I did not find that information out about ethnicity and race, but I do feel that one of the parts of my proposal was that it should go to this proposal should go to the state board, and then it should be on a school by school basis. There's some places that definitely are in more need than others, and they definitely should receive more help.
Okay, Mike, and then Aaron.
I guess, and this is more of a question I don't even know either. Did you take a look to see what the current requirements are?
For the Common Core?
For reading in Michigan?
I did not. Yeah. Sorry.
Because I guess that was part of the question too. You know, it's like if you add to one thing, you can take away from another. So I guess the question there is too is, you know, knowing there's only a limited number of hours in the day, what do you take away from if you do add that? I'm not saying it's not important, right?
So you're saying you're adding more reading than it's taking more time?
Yeah, you take a credit away. If you add one more credit of reading, you take one credit away of math.
I mean, this is just my thoughts, is that you could have, I guess, even more reading over summer school reading, even though no one really enjoys that. But you increase with book or two, and I mean, it's been shown that that higher levels of reading are correlated with higher employment and I mean economic benefits as well.
Thank
Thank you. I was curious, given everything that science has shown us about brain development in very early years, did you consider focusing any of your proposal on preschool education and literacy efforts as opposed to just increasing the elementary education?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't supposed to be just elementary, it's supposed to be just all from the youngest level onward. I just thought that that's what we needed to focus on. You need to plan for the future, as opposed to, I mean, I know that when I came across discussions of, I mean, you're bringing up these points about the adults that are illiterate, why aren't you putting forth a proposal that would help them? And I mean, that's also something that definitely should be done, but I just wanted to focus on at the youngest levels, and I definitely agree that something should be done at kindergarten, preschool, just to like nourish this idea of reading at the youngest levels.
Yeah, I would definitely encourage you to flesh that out a little bit in your proposal. I think there's a lot of research to show that high quality early education can really overcome some of those income inequality gaps so that all children can get kindergarten really ready to learn.
Thank you.
And just the last comment, Mike, there was actually a bill approved yesterday by the House Education Committee that would impact third graders with reading proficiency, that if they don't hit a certain level, they can't go to the fourth grade. So if that actually gets passed and signed into law, it's going to start impacting the first graders next year when they become third grade somewhere down the road. So very timely issue. So thank you very much and good job.
Yeah.
Moving on, I'd like to invite up to the table the topic coordinator for human development and welfare.
I'm here today with Benjamin Coe and Alice Bay, and we looked at human development and welfare. We had a lot of great proposals, numbering to 43. A lot of the topics discussed focused on healthcare, nutrition, education funding, as well as school safety. Basically, a lot of the proposals looked at how to ensure that Michigan residents can have excellent opportunities to grow into well-educated, well-adjusted, and healthy individuals. Looking at how to help families, communities, and educational institutions work better, especially for targeting children and adolescents.
So we had one town hall meeting over the course of the semester, and the speaker was Sari Adelson, who's one of the coordinators at the Prison Creative Arts Project, otherwise known as the PCAP. She shared her experiences working for the PCAP program, and also students interactively discussed how to improve Michigan's current prison system and also about human development issues.
The proposals that will be presented today are improving teacher quality in school by Alex Akhtarzad and amending bullying laws to include cyberbullying by Corey Goodstein. And now I'd like to pass it on to Alex.
Alright, so I'm gonna address the topic of improving teacher quality in schools. And according to the revised School Code Act 451, the Board of School District or Intermediate School District or Board of Directors of a public school academy shall adopt and implement for all teachers and school administrators a rigorous, transparent, and fair performance evaluation system. And so there still is a problem with this. Only 7% of Detroit public school 8th graders are proficient in reading, while only 4% are in math. The National Council on Teacher Quality issued Michigan a D- on overall teacher quality. And to go into that more, Michigan received a D for delivering well-prepared teachers, a D- for identifying effective teachers, a D for exiting ineffective teachers, and a big F for expanding the pool of teachers. Also, according to the Diplomas Count 2013, Michigan's high school graduation rate is approximately 4% the national rate and is continuing to get worse. Moody's Investor Services downgraded the credit ratings of 53 Michigan school districts in this year. And with lower credit ratings, we have more interest in borrowing fees, and the money that's supposed to go to schools is now getting used for interest payments. So I feel that if we improve the teacher qualities, we can then use that money toward improving teacher quality. And for my resolutions, I feel that the state needs to put more emphasis and invest in its teachers more. They need to increase workshops and programs in order to keep their teachers up to date and to help their students improve. They need more access to new textbooks and technology in order to give their students the most up-to-date education. And they also need to attract and recruit more qualified and experienced teachers. I researched that only 1 in 8 Michigan teachers has 1 year or less experience, while only 1 in 5 teachers has less than 3 years of experience. So I feel that they need to hire teachers with more than 5 years of experience. They need to conduct more background checks and make the hiring process more selective. And they need to hire teachers who have advanced degrees. And what I've learned is that teacher quality does matter, and it's rooted in its early stages. And also by improving teacher quality, we're also going to improve many other issues that have been addressed in this caucus, such as, I feel, childhood education. By putting more emphasis on teacher quality, students' education will definitely improve in the early stages, which will help them later on in life, whether it's getting a job or decreasing the crime rate, which have definitely been issues in the state of Michigan. And in a study with more than 5,000 participants, 79 supported improving teacher preparation. While Michigan residents understand that the best way to improve student achievement is to improve the skills of people of standing in the classroom. So I feel that if we put more emphasis on teacher quality, then we can definitely help these students later on in life as well. And that's it. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Any questions from the panel? Jay?
I had to take a moment for my sergeant in arms to join the panel. I'm Jay McDowell. I'm a high school teacher in Howell, Michigan. I've been there as a high school teacher for 15 years. I'm also the local union president of a teachers union of over 400 teachers. And your statistics are true in the sense that we do have issues in terms of education, reading level, and other issues. In my local, we have an average experience of 12 years for every teacher, and 75% of our teachers have master's degrees. However, only 30% of our graduates go on to achieve a degree of any kind post-graduation. Now, we're a semi-rural school district with a 20 to 25% free and reduced lunch population, which ranks us number 56 out of the 700 school districts around the state. So one of the issues in terms of when we look at teacher preparation, we look at teacher quality, I don't know that there's actually a correlation between that and the results we get out of the students. I think we have to look more into issues of poverty. We have to look more into issues of student homelessness. We have to look more into the issues, especially in a state such as Michigan. Once you get out of the Grand Rapids Kalamazoo corridor and Metro Detroit, now you're dealing with isolated districts without the cultural things that other districts might have. There's no DIA up in Bad Axe or in the river where students can take advantage of. But most importantly, when looking at the overall education situation in Michigan, putting it, using my union hat, putting it on the backs of teachers may not be the most comprehensive issue overall. And I wonder if you did look at the overall poverty rate of Michigan compared to other states in the nation, the overall poverty rate of the various school districts where teachers received a D or D minus, the overall student homelessness rate.
Well, I definitely agree with your point, and I didn't actually look into that, but I also did some research, and a study found that a student at the 50th percentile of his peers entering a classroom with a highly effective teacher would score in the 96th percentile, while with an ineffective teacher, they would leave scoring at a 37th percentile. And I feel that teachers could make a difference, although poverty could be an issue in all these other things that you have brought up. So I definitely agree with your point. But I feel that if we make the hiring process more selective, and for these different schools get teachers with more experience, then maybe we can actually improve their education as well.
Sure. Well, one follow-up question, just of interest to myself. Making the teacher selection process more selective is excellent. We could do it very much like doctors, we could do it like veterinarians, we could get a 7-year process in order to achieve a teaching degree. But I graduated from the University of Michigan back when it was not quite as expensive as it is now. And after 7 years at the University of Michigan, let's see a show of hands of how many of you would be willing to take that student debt and the amount of money you paid for that 7-year University of Michigan degree and come to Howell and start your teaching career at $37,000. Just raise your hand if that's something you would like to do.
Me, but I would tell you they went to go work in the state government for no money.
As we increase teacher quality, we also have to increase teacher pay somehow.
Can I respond? Also, there's different ways to do it, as in like, there's a group called the Calvin faculty, which is receiving a $200,000 grant in order to improve teacher quality in 2 Grand Rapids schools. So there could be another way where they could get better teachers to help train these teachers. And for example, like education professor John Walcott and Elizabeth Vanderlee are working for 1.5 years with these teachers in Grand Rapids in order to help them improve their teaching styles. So it doesn't necessarily have to be having a better education, but having people to help train those teachers in order to improve teacher quality.
Thank you. Any other questions? Any questions?
I think mine is more of a statement than anything. I think in here you suggest hiring teachers who have no less than 5 years of experience. And I think in the state of Michigan, we have a huge talent suck happening right now. A lot of our talented people who are graduating from our universities are moving out of state and going to places that are cooler than what we have here in Michigan. And that's a side note, something we're trying to work on. But if we're trying to keep these talented people in Michigan, who in turn are going to help our economy, how is this 5-year experience going to impact them if they're not able to find a job because the selection process is so limited? They have to have at least 5 years of experience, and coming out of college, they're not going to have that.
Well, I didn't know that initially, but maybe it could be less than 5 years, maybe something like 3 years or 2 years. But I believe that they should have some kind of background in order to help educate these kids, because when they either have 1 year experience or 3 years of experience, they don't really know how to convey their message to the kids and help improve their education. So I feel that they need to put more emphasis on the teachers more in order to help improve teacher quality.
Thank you, Alex. Good job.
Next, we have Corey Goodstein, amending the bullying rights to include cyberbullying.
Welcome, Corey.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm Corey Goodstein, and I'm here to talk about cyberbullying. So there's been a lot of talk about bullying in the news with the whole Richie Incognito and Jonathan Martin scandal, and there's also been a lot of unfortunate news about raising suicide rates due to cyberbullying. 43% of kids have been bullied online, and 1 in 4 has had it happen more than once. 68% of teens agree that cyberbullying is a serious problem, and 75% have visited a website that bashes another student. As these statistics show, cyberbullying is a problem. Personally, I have 2 cousins enrolled in elementary schools on either sides of the states, in the Grand Rapids and the Bloomfield Hills area, and either my cousins or their classmates have encountered cyberbullying, and the way that the schools handle the cyberbullying vary greatly, with one student saying simply, "It's not our problem," and another school taking it head on. And I spoke with both of the principals about the pros and cons of both policies, and I'd be happy to speak more about it during the Q&A or afterwards. So while I was doing my research, I was pleasantly surprised when I came across Senate Bill number 74, which actually had a lot of the measures that I wanted to enact already enacted, which was great. As it stands right now, bullying means any written, verbal, or physical act or electronic communication that is intended or a reasonable person would know is likely to harm one or more pupils. At school means in a classroom, elsewhere on school premises, on a school bus, or school-related vehicle. And it also includes a telecommunications device that occurs off school premises if the telecommunications access device or the service provider is owned or under the control of the school. I believe this leaves a little too much gray area. So I propose my amendment that if a student is being cyberbullied while off campus and the effects of the bullying or the bullying itself is seen in school, then the school has the right to intervene. Seen in school means reported to the school, or of course seeing the effects of bullying involved in school activities. Also, each school can choose its own disciplinary actions, so the punishment can vary greatly. And secondly, establish a uniform reporting system. The easier it is, the more likely bullying is to be reported. Also, maintain the reports in a way that show emerging problems and patterns over time, and show the reports to the school board annually. These reports can vary from if it's happening on a certain type of website or anything along those lines. Thank you very much.
Good. Thank you, sir. And just a quick update for you, Senate Bill 74 is currently pending in the Florida Michigan State Senate. So as a part of what they call Committee of the Whole, so you may want to follow up with your senator to see what they can do to get the bill to move out of the chamber. So any questions from the committee? Yeah. Here and see none. Good job, sir. Thank you. Next, we'd like to invite up the topic coordinators for environment and health to introduce their topic. Good morning, ladies. How you doing?
Good, how are you? Thanks. So we're the topic coordinators for the environment and health subject, and I'm Kirby Jacobs. Kimberly Zelvin. I'm Claudia Chapman. And the aim of this topic was to brainstorm ideas to create a healthier and more sustainable environment. Many of the brainstorm ideas targeted both rural and urban areas in Michigan and proposed ways to make this state more beautiful and to create a more clean environment. There are also proposals that address the topic of healthcare within the state and other aspects of promoting healthier lifestyles for all residents. So there are some common themes that we saw in the brainstorming area. So some of these themes were the high risk of tanning beds and also cigarette smoking, bike rental and sharing programs, as well as healthier food options in schools and food labeling on menus. And then the last theme that we saw was health and sexual education in the school systems. So the first proposal that was chosen for this topic is create policy that allows public to address street lighting concerns. And this one is by Rachel Gerber and Kendall Road.
Rachel and Kendall, come on down. It's like the price is right today.
Hello, thank you for coming today. So a lot of our background for this proposal came from personal experiences. So adequate lighting is a concern across the state of Michigan, especially in Ann Arbor. There are highly populated walking areas that do not have street lights, including areas that lead to dorms. Also in Detroit, Doreen Brown, who's Detroit City Ombudsman, found street light complaints are increasing in the city. So we found two state legislation acts that are currently here. So Act 359 states that each charter township may make local or public improvements by installing street and highway lighting systems. And Act 246 states that the expense of the lighting shall be paid out of the funds of the township. But as of now, what we recognize that there is no required standard procedure for townships that allow community members to address street lighting concerns. So our proposal is basically based around to the legislation to include a requirement for townships to provide a standard procedure that would allow community members to express which areas of the township they are a part of that are not adequately lit, areas they feel compromise their safety, and if street lighting would create a safer environment for where they live. The funding, if they're concerns were actually addressed would align with current legislation, and we believe that this proposal would further ensure that all necessary areas are lit. And a part of this, we found that one solution would be that Michigan would encourage dialogues between city council members and residents to address safety concerns across communities. So specifically, we believe it should be a council member's responsibility to create opportunities for discussions about safety concerns such as lighting.
The benefits of the proposal would allow for community members to freely voice their opinion. It is appreciated in their townships. Studies show increased lighting is thought to be an effective means of reducing and preventing crime. The current Michigan statistics regarding crime from 2011 and 2012 consists of 8% murder, kidnapping is 4.08%, sexual penetration is 5.01%, and oral anal is 22.12%, and stalking consists of 2.9% of the time. The increased lighting would encourage more people to partake in nightly activities such as exercise.
That's it.
Thank you, ladies. Good job. I just want to introduce to everybody today State Representative Philip Phelps from Genesee County, represent Flint and Swartz Creek. How much you'd like to make, Representative?
I just wanted to say, I applaud all of you for taking part in this program and taking time out of your day to come down here. David has been keeping me up to date on some of the things you've been working with, and we're looking forward to the outcomes that you have, possibly, submitting and these becoming resolutions in the House and Senate. So I just wanted to say thank you. I'm a proud alumni, and proud to answer any questions I can afterwards or after session today if you stick around. And thanks, and enjoy your time here today.
Thank you, Representative. Any questions from the panel? Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much for your presentation. I see, and I'm assuming when you say township, you mean township, city, village, all local units of government. You want to require that safety is a huge concern for our local municipalities and those who lead our local municipalities. But where are you suggesting that funding come from? If it's going to be a state mandate that they now provide lighting, where would that money come from?
So just to clear up any misconceptions, our proposal and legislation is basically around the fact that we think that a town council's responsibility should include making the efforts to talk to its community members so that they can understand and learn what areas of the community they are a part of require more lighting. From our personal experience, there's a lot of areas in Ann Arbor that lead to dorms that we were all a part of that are not adequately lit, and if we thought that if there were a way for us to feel comfortable to, express our opinions, we feel that we would be able to voice this, and hopefully in the future these areas would be lit. We're not exactly proposing something that has to do with funding. Our proposal just wants to amend current legislation just to include a requirement that would enforce someone just to be representative of the community in that way.
Okay. Erin?
I was curious, you did focus on increasing opportunities for citizens to give input. Currently, Michigan has a law requiring meetings to be open and to have time for public participation, and most local representatives, elected officials, do try to be pretty responsive to the people that they represent. I'm curious what avenues for participation you're hoping to see that don't currently exist.
So basically, we just want lighting concerns to be a main issue that they are trying to get voiced from the community members. We found, especially this year, that a lot of the crime alerts have to do with areas that are unlit in Ann Arbor. So we feel that if one of these town council members would effectively choose to talk about lighting, and I know part of the responsibilities is to represent community members, but if they were more vocal and actually had a requirement that would force them almost to get community members to talk about it, if they feel uncomfortable with lighting, set up aside meetings with them just to become, more of a community and make community members feel valued, that more of these concerns would be addressed and just to provide avenues for those residents to say that.
I know in Detroit, this is obviously a huge issue because 70% of the streetlights in Detroit do not work. And they have a separate lighting authority because a lot of the equipment that's around the lights have been salvaged and removed and stolen and sold off for copper and so forth. So I know in my own community, we have a subdivision that is looking to finish off its streets, but the lights are part of the street in the right of way. So because those streets are private, the lights are private. And we're working, the problem we have is the developer who started the development back 15 years ago walked away and bailed on the project without it being completely built out. And so we've been working with the residents and the neighborhood association to figure out how to get those streets back into city control so that we then take ownership of the street as well as the right of way and the lights, and then we begin paying for it ourselves. So it is a very complicated mess. But trust me, at the local level, those of us who are elected, and Sarah knows as well, we are very responsive to our citizens' concerns and complaints. And with that particular neighborhood, we've been working on that for 3.5 years. So it's been mildly entertaining. So, any further comments or questions from the panel? Hearing and seeing none, thank you, ladies. Good job.
And the second proposal I've chosen for the environmental and health topic is adding healthy vending machines through our public schools by Haven Grafizado.
How's it going? So I decided to write this proposal on adding healthy vending machines throughout public schools after reading an article on the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, which basically stated that childhood obesity over the past 30 years has doubled in children and tripled in adolescents. Furthermore, 1 in 3 children as of 2010 are either overweight or obese, which I find to be a pretty big problem. So I decided to try to tackle it by adding healthy vending machines rather than changing the whole food system that Michigan currently has in place, because I felt that it was a much easier venue to be able to seep into, and it wouldn't take as much reform as it would to boost the nutritional value of the food that is currently being served at these schools. So to get into it, so under the Food Law Act of 2000, there currently are no restrictions on vending machines in public schools. And after a Michigan Youth Risk Behavior Study, it found that 12% of students were obese, and 80% of those students had eaten less than 5 fruits or vegetables in the 7 days prior to the survey. Furthermore, I found that 18% of these schools did not even sell like nutritious foods or like fruits or vegetables, and I found that to be another problem. So I decided that because all of these schools already have vending machines, 43% of elementary schools, 90% of middle schools, and 98% of high schools, I decided that if there was a way that we could change the kinds of foods that they're serving in those, then maybe we could make some progress on to what kinds of foods our students eat. So I found a couple good things that a couple states have put in place. Like for example, Alabama does not let individual snacks in vending machines have more than 30 grams of carbs, 360 milligrams of sodium, or over 6.5 grams of fat. Furthermore, I know that in California, snacks can't have more than 35% of their calories from fat or have more than 35% sugar. And these things are both things that I thought if we put those provisions in, it would help a lot, considering the foods that are being served right now. So as far as my proposal went, I said that I wanted to add a revision that would force schools to have at least one, hopefully more, healthy vending machines. And in those, they would follow the USDA Healthy Hunger Free Act of 2010, which states that items in vending machines must have fewer than 200 calories, less than 230 milligrams of sodium, and like I said before, less than 35% of calories from fat and less than 35% of weight from sugar. Furthermore, I felt that only water, low-fat milk, and fruit juices should be sold in these, and all candy bars, chips, sodas, and all other standardized items should be removed. As far as the funding goes, I feel that either schools can replace their inventories of their current vending machines, or they could bring in companies that, I know a lot of companies like Healthy Vending, they bring in their own machines, they make the money off of it, but it does give the students an option. So that is my basic proposal, and I would love to hear your questions on it.
Thank you. Eric.
A point of clarification, you talked about schools having at least one healthy vending machine, and I wasn't clear, would they still be allowed to have the other vending machines?
So,
And it would only be these that didn't have the candy bars and whatnot?
right, so what I was basically going for was that I feel that a lot of schools actually make a decent amount of money from these vending machines, and forcing them to get rid of all of these and have to bring in the food that is obviously more expensive, because healthier food tends to be on the higher side of price. I felt that to completely get rid of that one option would actually like be more of a harm to the schools. So I felt that if they're at least giving the students an option for the healthy foods, then I thought that was a good way to start. I know what a lot of states are doing is they're putting year cutoffs. Like I know in a county in New York, they're doing like by 2015, like 50% of the foods can be like that, and then 75, and then eventually they want to get rid of those kinds of foods in total. And I wouldn't be opposed to doing some sort of system like that, but I think as long as we ease it in, it could be something like that.
I think that is a good thought, because that revenue is important to schools, but I have 2 school-age children myself, and as much as I like to think they would choose the apple, I feel better.
I would never choose the apple. Just kidding. Any other comments or questions from the panel? Hearing seen none, thank you. Good job. Next up are the topic coordinators for economic policy.
So we are the economic policy topic coordinators. I'm Matt Leitner. Corey Barnes.
Molly Benz.
And so in our topic, we saw 94 proposals, and our economic policy prompt was what policies can we create that will help Michigan create a stronger, more diversified economy. And we saw topics that included raising lower minimum wage, taxes on unhealthy food, soda and trans fat, and increasing tax on tobacco, gas, and alcohol.
We also had a speaker come in for our town hall meeting. His name was Suchir Bagchi, and he's a PhD candidate in the Ross School of Business studying business economics. And he spoke to us about public sector pension plans. And he covered the differences between defined benefit and defined contribution plans, and how political competition affects these kinds of plans' funding. And he did a breakdown of the 50 states funding for pension plans. And later, when we asked him some questions about it, he spoke more about Michigan public sector pension plans and how they've recently been shifting from defined benefit to defined contribution. So we are going to bring up our first proposal authors, Shin, Healy, and Soley, and their proposal about food localization. I'm going to give you a brief summary now.
Hi, hello again. I'm Sylvie. I'm Lily.
So the authors of the proposal have been brainstorming what can really improve the economy of Michigan. And we came across this idea of food localization. Before going into the details of the proposal, we wanted to give you some definition of the local foods. And so the facts for the local food is that a local food is that food produced, processed, traded and sold within a defined geography radius of up to 30 miles. It's a food that produced through sustainable methods of direct farmers to customers' marketing arrangements. And the benefits of the local food is the promotion of the localized food system strengthens the stability of region's market economy.
Mainly the aspect of strengthening the market economy is that when you keep money in a local system, it promotes stability in the local markets, as studies have found that money spent with local institutions tends to stay within the local economy. So there are a lot of projects in Michigan that looked at the localization of food, and the one that we focused on was a project called WIC Project Fresh. And essentially, this is a program that makes fresh produce available to low-income, nutritionally at-risk consumers through the utilization of participating farmers and farmers markets and local food stands. Currently, the participation eligibility is women and children up to age 5, and participants will receive $30 booklets consisting of $2 coupons that they can use to purchase fresh fruit, vegetables, and herbs at these farmers markets and stands. The federal funding was approximately at $500,000 in 2012. So the changes that we'd like to make to this project is to really push it forward and make it a bigger program. For fiscal year 2014, we'd like to increase the funding to $750,000, and also change the eligibility requirements to include women and children up to age 8. With the increase in funding, this will allow for participants to receive booklets worth $40, consisting of $22 coupons that they can use to purchase fresh fruit, vegetables, and herbs.
Great, thank you, lady. I apologize to the panel, we don't have their specific slides in your handout today, but we can send that to you after today's hearing is over. Are there any questions? Yes, sir.
This isn't a question, it's more of a comment. This is absolutely wonderful. There's a neighborhood association that's not far from here on the east side of Lansing that is incorporating some of these ideas with their farmers market, and it has received rave reviews from the neighbors and amazing success thus far. So this is an amazing idea. Just kudos.
Thank you. Any further comments or questions from the panel? Hearing seen none, thank you, ladies. Good job.
Up next, we're going to bring payment back to talk about adding jobs for structurally unemployed in Michigan.
Welcome back, sir. Repeated performance, eh?
Thank you. Alright. So, I don't know if you guys have these slides. Hopefully you do.
Yes, we do, sir.
Okay. So, basically what I was going for here was structural unemployment is a big problem in Michigan, and I feel that it often goes overlooked because there have been increasing unemployment rates in Michigan. We're at 9% as of October. So I feel like it's a part of unemployment that isn't stressed as much. Currently in the Michigan Employment Security Act, the state of Michigan doesn't provide any support to structurally unemployed residents. So basically, I'm sure as you guys know, like structurally unemployed people are those that are of low income, have a criminal history, or have at-risk youth, high school dropouts. It's basically where like there's too many jobs, there's too few jobs to fit all the people that need them. So recently, Governor Rick Schneider has started a program called Community Ventures, which is basically helping these people get hired. So what they basically do is they prep them for the interviews, and their funding allows them to anyone that hires these people, they get a specific portion of the salary back, so it's an incentive to hire these people. They're getting them at a cheaper rate, and to this day, 63 companies have hired over 1,000 people, with 942 of them still in the positions and making an average wage of $11.53 an hour. So moving on, the way I feel that this should be resolved and added to further is that the state of Michigan should amend the Michigan Employment Security Act by adding another section, Section 75 to it, encouraging the hiring of structurally unemployed throughout Michigan. Furthermore, right now the Community Ventures Program is only getting $10 million of funding for this year and the following year, but I feel that it should be extended to the next 5 years because this is a problem that's not going away in 2 years, and I feel that if we treat it now, it could help bring all these rates lower and could even help the overall unemployment rate of Michigan. The way they're funding it right now is just through the state. It was through a specific tax reserve, I believe, and so I feel that if they are already doing it for 2 years, I'm sure that with the numbers that they have, they can show that it is worthwhile to keep going. I also spoke to someone at the Community Ventures office, and she felt that the longer we're able to keep this around, the better. Like, it's gaining momentum, more companies are signing up to be able to do this, but without the funding, obviously they're not going to be able to keep going. So that's basically my proposal, and I hope that this gets passed. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any questions from the panel? Job well done. Congrats. I'd like to invite up the topic coordinators now for the community revitalization and social entrepreneurship topic area. And this is the last topic for this morning, and you're the last thing between us and lunch. So, there's no point. No pressure, guys, no pressure. Anybody have an apple?
We can do this quickly, it'll be fine. We're the topic coordinators. To my left is Matthew Bernstein, to my right, Brendan Isaacs, I'm Jeremy Gerwich. So our topic is unique, it's different than the others because each individual proposal pertains to an actual community or city rather than the state of Michigan. So it's a little different. For our topic, we had 2 town hall meetings. The first was Annie Kennedy, and she's a representative from 826 Michigan, so she spoke about what they do and how to help out. And the second was Jesse Meller actually spoke. He works for Maxie, he's a volunteer. It's a juvenile delinquent center, and he's actually in the class as well, and so he spoke about what he does. And it was more of a brainstorming session because we tried to help out, because since our topic is in fact different, we wanted to give people an idea of what they could write about rather than just Michigan. So we had a few ideas. There was a total of 112 proposals. A few of them were youth opportunities in Saginaw, Michigan, bike sharing program for Ann Arbor, and improving homeless programs in Detroit. But the 2 proposed that were voted into the platform, the first was the University Mentorship Program by Ben Levine and Kara Richards. The second will come next, which is by William Stern, which is increasing number of streetlights and adding blue light safety system in the Saginaw community. So first we'll bring up Ben Levine and Kara Richards.
Thank you.
So I'm Ben, and this is Kara, and we did our proposal on a mentoring program in Detroit. Kara's going to start off by talking about some statistics related to mentoring and the school system in Detroit, and then I'll talk about the program that we proposed.
So just a few problems that we found with the Michigan educational system was that in 2011, more than half the state schools had fewer than 10% of its students feeling college ready after graduation.
Can you turn your mic on, Kara?
Oh, sorry.
Okay, it's just the red button. Thank you. It's pretty responsive, it'll pick it up.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, okay.
There we go.
In 2011, more than half the state's high schools had fewer than 10% of its students feeling college ready after graduation. And then in 2013, an annual ranking showed that only 1/4 of the schools in Detroit provided an adequate education for its students. And then in general, between the hours of 3 and 6 p.m. after school, were the peak hours for teens to commit crimes, be a part of crimes, be in car crashes, or get involved in smoking, drinking, and using other drugs, things of that nature. And then just a few of the many benefits of mentors. We found that students who meet regularly with their mentors are 52% less likely than their peers to skip day of school, and 37% less likely to skip a class. At its most basic level, we thought that the one-on-one interaction with students and mentors helps because it guarantees a young person that there's someone who cares about them, who's taking the time to spend time with them in their day. And then 40% of teenagers' waking hours are spent without companionship or supervision, and mentors provide a safe place and valuable place for kids to spend their free time.
So our proposed program was a pilot program starting the fall of 2014 at the University of Michigan, and students would be able to receive credit for volunteering in Detroit schools. We felt that it was important though before they could volunteer that they go through like a course that talked about socioeconomic issues in Detroit, so you could kind of be familiar with the issues that would be presented to them while they were volunteering. And they would volunteer regularly at set times within a specific school throughout the semester. And we felt that the state could help make this kind of more attractive to students and official by providing students with like an official certificate that recognizes their time volunteering. And then we also felt that after 1 year of the program at the University of Michigan, the state could evaluate the success of the program to see if they felt that other universities could implement such a program, and also kind of provide a leader that could help oversee the program and help coordinate where students, if it expanded, what high school students would be going to, what cities were most necessary to have volunteers. So that's our proposal. Thanks.
Thank you. Questions from the panel? Start with Sarah and then Mike.
Thank you. Two questions. The first one, was there an environmental scan done to assess the existing mentoring programs that already exist in Detroit?
So I can only speak from my personal experience. I did my volunteering for this course at a school, Detroit, a charter school, and while volunteering, the faculty at the school said that they love any volunteers, they appreciate anyone who's willing to come because they feel that they're understaffed and under-resourced, but that it's very rare. So I can't speak on behalf of the entire city of Detroit, but I can say that the one school that I went to felt that it was very helpful when they had students volunteer.
I definitely agree. If there are some schools, I would definitely say they need additional volunteers, but I would also encourage you to do a scan citywide to see the mentoring organizations that already exist. I know there are quite a few, and so if there was a way that that can be strengthened or coordinated around some set specific standards, that would be very helpful citywide. My other question was around the in-depth education, so the training that the volunteers would receive before volunteering. Can you talk to me a little bit more about who would be conducting the training, maybe what some of that training would look like?
Yeah, so it'd be a course at the university, so there'd be a professor in charge of the class, and then I felt that having volunteers, so if maybe it was the first 5 weeks of the semester, they had 2 class periods, and each class talked about maybe a different issue that existed, and they could bring in volunteers, maybe teachers from the city of Detroit, or faculty from other universities, whoever it may be, to kind of focus on individual issues that students volunteering would be exposed to, and just educate the students on those issues.
I think that would be really important to have actual Detroiters to be involved in that training. Oftentimes there are very well-intentioned folks who come into communities and don't actually ask residents and people who are on the ground and in the trenches about, some of the issues that they're actually facing. So that would be really important to get local buy-in and local people to help with that training. Thank you.
I guess my question would be centered on kind of the part where you talk about how the state can help. It seems to me like the University of Michigan with their program did just a fine job with the program. And why would it be time better spent, trying to use this as a model and go to other universities, whether it's statewide or in the Southeast Michigan region, and start a partnership with the different universities, such as like the University Research Corridor, which is kind of already up and running. Or I guess I'm just struggling with the need of the state to have. It's a fantastic program, but I'm just struggling with the need of the state here.
Yeah, so I just felt that there needs to be some common ground. If it were to expand to other schools, given they're in different locations, it'd be communication may be difficult, and then some kind of branch between the schools in Detroit and then the students at the university. So we just felt that someone at state level that's involved in the education system would be able to help coordinate and facilitate the program.
I think it's a good idea. I would just think about kind of who that's going to be in charge of shouldering that responsibility in the state and how much that's going to cost. It's a great idea.
I think one maybe thing to look at is in our campus, we will reward students that are civically engaged. So during their academic career, if they tally on at least 300 hours during their 4 or 5 years with us, that ends up on their academic transcripts, and they receive cords at commencement. So that's something they can take with them academically to future job employers that we internally track, but it rewards them for that kind of behavior and sense of giving back to the community. So it might be something for the Ann Arbor campus to take a look at to begin amending transcripts for students who are civically engaged throughout their entire academic career. Just a thought. And Michael.
Yeah, just full disclosure, I talked to Ben about this project that's been preparing, and I certainly agree that community buy-in is important. But I think I was quite enthusiastic about this project, and it was commendable to the extent that it makes students in Ann Arbor, Michigan, more aware, more attuned to, more involved in a lot of the issues that communities in the state are facing that they otherwise don't have the opportunity to do it. It's almost on the matter of Teach for America in some extent. It's as much as anything else, it's also increasing people's awareness of issues faced by communities about which they have zero knowledge. So taking to all due account what some of the, I think, very appropriate comments that people made to you, then I think this is an incredible and it's a really excellent deal.
Thank you. Job well done.
Last but certainly not least, we'd like to call up William Stern to talk about his proposal.
So William, just so you know, you are the last one before lunch. Just so you know. Okay, no pressure.
1 second. Okay, my name is William Stern. Thank you guys for listening to my proposal. The title is increasing the number of streetlights and adding blue light safety systems in the Saginaw community. So a little background, Saginaw is ranked the 5th most dangerous city in the country. It is ranked the most dangerous city in the United States for women due to the frequency of rape. It is ranked 3rd in the country for most violent crimes committed per capita and has tripled the national average of robberies, assaults, and burglaries per 100,000 people. So I have a 2-part proposal. The first part states that more streetlights should be installed in the residential sections of Saginaw and the neighborhoods where the crime rates are the highest. According to the Campbell collaboration, crime rates are increased by 21% in areas that experience streetlight improvements in comparison to similar areas that did not. So the second part of my proposal states the blue light alarm system should be added to residential areas with high crime rates. Blue light alarm systems are used in college campuses around the country in the United States. They've been very effective so far. They're described as a series of emergency alarm stations strategically located throughout the campus to provide assistance to everyone in distress. This allows you to directly communicate with authorities, and emergency teams will be dispatched to effectively respond to the situation. Responses will be handled by a branch of the Saginaw Police Force that are well trained and equipped and know how to respond to these requests. And also there will be an additional clause that states that anybody who tampers with these blue light systems, there will be severe penalties. So this is a potential pilot program, and if the installation of more streetlights and blue light systems is effective in Saginaw, these technologies could be brought to other crime-ridden communities in Michigan, including other dangerously ranked cities, including Flint, which is ranked number 3, and Detroit, which is ranked the 6th.
Great. Thank you, sir. Any comments or questions from the panel? One suggestion.
I would just, I guess, consider the last part in terms of responsibility handled by a branch of the Saginaw Police Department. Just, I guess, depending on how many people are in that special branch, you know, to handle that, and how many people are available. So maybe just making it open to really any police officers in the area.
For sure. That makes a lot of sense. Thank you. Well, that's Aaron. Last one before lunch.
I was just curious, maybe I played with the blue light system a little bit, but what makes that a better system for responding than just the calling that everyone's carrying around anyway?
I was actually thinking about that as well. I think there's actually an aspect of fear that's involved. So when you see these blue lights all across this community, I think, and you know, the whole point of them, at least on the college campuses, is from any location on the University of Michigan campus, you can see this blue light. So I think that would sort of scare potential, I guess, not companies, but people that are about to make offenses, and would hopefully, you know, stray them away from doing that.
Thank you.
Please remain for one more minute while I give just a couple concluding remarks. On behalf of the entire Michigan Student Caucus, I'd like to express a huge thank you to all of the panelists. We know you have very, very busy lives, and we appreciate taking the time to talk with us and to react to the proposals that are in our platform. I also want to emphasize that everyone in this room has contributed in many different ways to the platform, not just the presenters that were before you. If we could recognize everyone in the caucus for their good work this semester. I hope that everyone on the panel comes away with the feeling that we are all working together to make Michigan a better state. So thank you once again. Before you leave, MSC members, please make sure if you are in Education 362 that you sign out. There will be sign-out sheets outside the door. And also make sure that you're not leaving anything by your seat, including trash or coffee cups or anything like that.
With that, we stand adjourned.
Say hi to everyone in LA. At this point, that's a reasonable number. You don't just look at the number, so you have to look at I hope that also that portfolio is a chance to make a case. People distributed both online and offline. Really have it separate, put a good representation into the portfolio, and make sure that you really represent yourself. That'd be big trust.
Well, no,